Hello. Hi. We are All49ers. I'm Grant Cohn. That's Jack Hammer, Maverick Pallack, and Jose Sanchez is getting his haircut. He's going to be here on the double pretty quick, and then we'll start talking. But he'll meet us halfway. The show goes on. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, and since the Niners are playing a game in September, time is of the essence. We got to talk about this now. So first things first. A lot of enthusiasm about the Niners from Niner fans because, that's what Niner fans do in the offseason. But the Niners finished in last place in the NFC West last year. And the Rams got better. The Seahawks are the Seahawks. And the Cardinals have Kyler Murray entering year 3. So what is the path out of last place for San Francisco? What do they have to do to get that done?
I guess I'll go ahead. I'll start off on this one. I think there's a couple of things. The first thing that they need to do is they need to get that secondary figured out. With right now, with the situation that they're in, they have nobody signed as far as cornerback. So they really got to get that figured out first and foremost. And then beyond that, they just need to be healthy. If they can stay healthy and the quarterback situation can stay healthy, regardless of who that is, especially if it's Garoppolo or somebody else that they choose to bring in, I think they can jump up pretty quick. They weren't that far off last year. It was just the injury issues to the quarterback really is really where it dropped off. But also, Deebo Samuel and George Kittle, they need to stay healthy as well. Without those guys, it's going to be really hard for them to improve beyond, maybe third place or second place in the division.
I think they can definitely improve just because I think they have a better situation than the Cardinals this offseason, just because Arizona has to re-sign a lot of their pass rush. And I'm just not a big Kingsbury guy. I think some people see something in him, but I think he holds back the offensive little. And they have no run game. Kenyon Drake, I believe, is a free agent, and he wasn't really good in year 2 with Arizona. So that holds him back. But if the 49ers can get healthy, they have some room for improvement, a lot more than Seattle, in my opinion, because Seattle doesn't have that first-round pick, and they have a lot of money invested in their guys. So the Niners can use the draft to improve, or they can use the draft to improve their quarterback situation. And then if they stay healthy, they have a lot of important guys coming back, like Jack said. They have their best offensive player and their best defensive player coming back. So that's a pretty big way to get out of the basement, I would say.
That's a really good answer. That's convincing. I'm a little bit more pessimistic here, though. I feel like let me piggyback off what Jack's saying. Yeah, they got to get a bunch of cornerbacks. That's 1. 2, they got to stay healthy. That's 2. In my opinion, even those 2 things, if they were to accomplish those 2 things, in my opinion, the best they do is third place because I'm with you on Cliff Kingsbury. That guy's a fraud. So how do they get – so that gets them out of the basement. That qualifies. But how do they get into the playoffs? How do they get – or maybe they could be one of two. Maybe the NFC West has 3 playoffs teams. Maybe that's possible. But how do they get past the Rams and the Seahawks? I don't think having a healthy 16 games of Garoppolo and a healthy 16 games of Ben Garland and a healthy and Daniel Brunskill and Mike McGlinchey does it. I think the Rams and Seahawks are at a different level, especially the Rams now that they have a competent quarterback. And for the Niners to get – I know this isn't the question I asked, but for the Niners to vault past those 2, they would have to get better cornerbacks, stay healthy, get a better quarterback, and improve the offensive line. 4 things. So I think we're looking at maybe second place as a best case scenario, third place more likely. But I'm pessimistic. Maverick, am I being too pessimistic?
I just think they have the advantage of they know how to score on the Rams. The Rams will have a better or a different defense, maybe not better, but they'll have a different defense with Raheem Morris, I believe, took over there. And they obviously have a much better quarterback, I think we'd all agree, in LA now. But with Seattle, I just keep going back. They do have Russell Wilson. They do have 2 pretty unguardable wide receivers, but their interior line especially is not great. They don't have a lot of room to improve that defensive backfield. And as long as you don't let Bobby Wagner blow you over on the right side of the offensive line, you should be able to score a couple times on that defense.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say, for me, the biggest competition, they're going to be able to beat Seattle. They've shown the ability to beat Seattle over with the last 3 or 4 years with Shanahan. They've always played Seattle tough at home, even last year when the home game was in Arizona. So that's a winnable game for them. And they just got to win the road games, the easy games, again, outside of their division that they blew this year. That's really the biggest difference. The Rams is going to be the biggest challenge, though, because of the upgrade. They're going to have an upgrade at the quarterback position, and there's a lot of open receivers last couple of years that were just missed that I don't see Stafford missing. And so I think 49ers, I'm with you. I'd say they're probably fighting for second place in the division. Maybe, get lucky and get first if they're all healthy. But I think they're going to be that's where they would slot in.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's not fair because the Niners haven't changed that much and they have had bad luck, but time passes and other teams get better. And the Rams have gotten better. And even though the Niners beat them twice last year, that may not carry over next year. The Seahawks are always good for 10 wins, although they may not have Russell Wilson next year. We'll talk about that a little later. Okay, let's move on. Same theme, though. Getting out of the basement, how to approach the offseason. Does the strategy of climbing out of the basement require the Niners to re-sign Trent Williams? Is that just mandatory? Jack, Maverick, why don't you start? You started, Jack started the last one.
Well, I originally was under the camp of they must re-sign Trent Williams, but I think it was actually Jack that and you, Grant, that convinced me that Alejandro Villanueva wasn't as bad as I once thought. And then I thought of Terran Armstead as a trade possibility to help the Saints out in their salary cap situation. He's in the last year of his deal. Do a similar deal to what they did with Trent Williams, and then don't promise the guy you won't franchise him, and then that could free up some openings in the next season. And then plus, I like a lot of guys in the draft, even late first, early second round guys. I like Jalen Mayfield, and I think he can play left tackle. He might not be Trent Williams or Joe Staley level right away, but I think he is a capable tackle in the NFL, and that makes it that opens up some possibilities. But if they do lose Trent Williams, they do have to trade a draft pick to get or draft a guy to replace the left tackle, or they have to go get Alejandro Villanueva. There aren't many options in free agency. I think he's really the only one. Maybe you can talk yourself into Kelvin Beachum as a 1-year deal, but that's not something I'm really interested in.
Yeah, I definitely don't think that Trent Williams is a must for a re-signing. The 49ers have shown the ability to win games with Kyle Shanahan as the head coach with less than stellar play from their left tackle. They were 8-0 in 2019 with Justin School and Daniel Brunskill playing left tackle. They almost beat Seattle this year with Justin School playing left tackle and CJ Beathard at quarterback. So it's really about the quarterback position. If they get the quarterback position figured out, whether it's Garoppolo or another veteran that comes in, I don't think that they need to re-sign Williams. Do I think that they can, do that same level of play with School? Not necessarily. The Villanueva route would be one to go. But there's some other guys that, I haven't really put a whole lot of thought into who they would be. But, even if it's School that has to start out there for 16 games, I think they're going to be better off because of everybody else that they can sign with that $21 million they're going to save from not re-signing Trent Williams. He's just not a difference maker.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. What are you paying Trent Williams for? He might be the best left tackle in the league. And so you're paying him because he's a stud in the run game and everything you want him to do, and he's a stud in pass protection. But having one stud out of 5 in pass protection, when the other 4 really struggle in pass protection, what does it do? There's still 4 guys who are going to get your quarterback smacked. And your offensive philosophy has to be to avoid drop back passing as much as possible. Having one good guy out of 5 doesn't. We saw that last year. It doesn't change anything. So they still have to avoid drop back passing. It all has to be about the run and getting a lead and play action passing and moving the pocket. So if that's the case, I don't see what spending $26 million on Trent Williams really gets you. Does it get you a top half of the league offensive line in terms of pass protection? No. Does it guarantee your quarterback doesn't get hit 70 times a season? No. So yeah, he's really good, but I don't know. Maybe he should go to a team with a quarterback who's making $2 million a year so that him and the franchise quarterback aren't taking up 27% of the team's cap space. Is that the way to win? Especially with a guy in Trent Williams who doesn't play every week. He'll miss 2-3 games a season. You don't know when it is. I don't know. I'm not really eager to give him 11% of the salary cap.
Well, just going off your example, so this is my guy I've just been throwing out there. I don't even know if he's available, but Terran Armstead, $16.1 million against the cap, I believe, next year. How much do we think Alex Mack would be? Probably 5, 6. So that's probably around what Trent Williams would be on the cap is 22,
Correct.
23 million. So you can get Armstead, who isn't the number 1 left tackle in the NFL, but is probably top 7 in the NFL, top 8. Yes. And Alex Mack, who was the number one center in the NFL. Maybe age just brought him down a little bit, but he's still definitely an improvement at center. So
I like that better.
Fortify two positions at the cost of what, a third-round pick, second-round pick for Terran Armstead, and I
like
think
that way better. And again, remember what the Patriots did? They traded for Trent Brown. Kind of similar situation. They traded a mid-round pick for Trent Brown. He was great for them at left tackle. They won a Super Bowl with him. And then they offered him whatever they offered him. He didn't accept it. And they were like, you know what? Good luck, dude. All the best. We're not going to cry about whatever pick we gave up to get you. We'll take the comp pick and move on. And that was the right call. It was the right call. Niners might want to take a page out of the Patriots book. Would they give Trent Williams a blank check? Because that's exactly what Trent Williams is going to get. He's going to get as much money as he wants on the free agent market. I don't think the Patriots would even get into that.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I totally agree with what Mav said. I've been saying that for a while, but he's got some different names that, with that tackle and center combination. So that's really good. And I've been saying Villanueva and Lindsley or one of those other. Lindsay, I think, is going to be a little bit too high, at center. But I think it's Blythe out of from the Rams is kind of, a lot of people are talking about him, and he'd definitely be a fit as well. So they have some different options there, and I would rather see them get two guys for what it would cost for the left tackle. I understand that Trent Williams is a tremendous player, but his teams, it's not like he's helping. He's never helped his team. I mean, look what happened in Washington.
Right.
They had a bad quarterback play and whatnot, and the same situation here in San Francisco, and that's what's going to happen if they pay him so much money.
Yeah, as great as he is, one left tackle can impact the win-loss column in that way. Yeah. And so if you could get two excellent starting offensive linemen for the price of Trent Williams, I would do that because, again, we've seen what he can do, his impact on a bad offensive line. It's minimal. He does his job, the other four struggle, and the pass protection isn't good enough. So, yeah, give me two. I like that.
One other thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mav.
I was just going to say another example is think how many times Joe Staley was a All-Pro, Pro Bowl level left tackle, and how many other times the other four offensive linemen struggled and the 49ers couldn't protect him. Happened a couple times in his career.
Also, speaking of Joe Staley, everyone acts like left tackle is super important. You got to spend through the nose on it. Let me tell you Joe Staley's cap numbers starting in 2011. 2.1 million, 2.5 million, 2.8 million, 7.6 million, 8.3 million, 11 million, 10.9 million, 14.7 million retired. This is a guy who played for way under market value his whole career out of the good for the 49ers so they could compete. Trent Williams doesn't want to do that. He wants double what Joe Staley was making. I don't know. Let someone else pay him, man, because you're not going to win paying that guy that much money. You're not.
Yeah, and that's the same thing that Tom Brady did throughout his whole career with Tampa, with New England, right? He always took below market rate. He could have always, really had them drive up the price during his career. He's always took lower deals to help the organization out, And
as opposed to Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers. Yes.
Yep. Kind of leading on to that, when you're looking at the whole deal with Trent Williams, the other part of it is his cap numbers are going to be crazy. So, a lot of folks are talking about moving, trying to get him re-signed and have it not be that expensive in year one and push those out to, his higher cap hits out to say 2022, 2023. That's really hard when you have a guy like Eric Armstead that's going to be taking up 20 million of your cap in 2022. So when you start to look at these guys that are going to be needing deals, you can't really say that you're going to push that out because you're looking at, a defensive tackle or defensive end who really only makes his plays when he's playing defensive tackle, who's making $20 million a year for 3.5 sacks. And hopefully he does better, but that's a really bad contract for the 49ers moving forward.
Yeah, it's funny. Fans are always like, you guys are tripping over the numbers and the cap. Just backload it. Parag will figure it out. Yeah, that's what he did with Eric Armstead. There's only so many players you can do that to until you wind up in 2022, 2023, where like 5 players are taking up 70% of your cap space and you're Dallas or whatever. You can't, gotta be careful. It's a good point. People don't think about Armstead because his cap number was like 6 million last year. Check it out on overthecap.com. Buckner's was front loaded. He gets increasingly more inexpensive. Armstead ends up being quite expensive. So yeah, Trent Williams might have. I like Teron Armstead. I like that a lot. Oh, guess who just came? What's up? Nice.
Oh,
nice
cut.
That. I like it. The little fade. What'd you get? The 2 on the side or a 1 on? You go full 1? How'd you do?
Bald fade, 3 on top.
Bald fade, 3 on top. You heard it there. That's what Jose gets. Jose's got a fan club from what I've heard. What's up? How you doing?
Yeah, I got a fan club. Sure.
Hey. All right. So let me get you caught up. We talked about what the Niners have to do to get out of the basement next season. basically get corners, stay healthy, get a new quarterback, and get a new offensive line. Other than that, I think they're on the verge. Well, that was me. They were more positive. Then we talked about if the Niners have to re-sign Trent Williams. We all said we'd actually be cool with them getting 2 guys for the price of him. Say Alex Mack and Teron Armstead, Alejandro Villanueva, Corey Linsley, Austin Blythe, something like that. What do you think?
Oh, I 100% agree with that. You don't want to just tie your money all on one player, because isn't that the problem we have with Jimmy Garoppolo right now?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but at least Trent Williams, he's the more sure thing in terms of getting the money. Like, hey, he's a primetime player versus Garoppolo. You're not paying that top dollar for a guy who's barely an average quarterback. So yeah, I 100% agree with that, because I was even thinking when I was writing my Brett piece this week that, hey, Trent Williams probably not going to sign. I don't think it's going to happen. And now you can feel a little more relief. Like, hey, we can allocate all that money we were going with him to, I don't know, say like what you guys said, those 2 offensive linemen, or maybe just sign a few more other key players like a Juszczyk and Verrett or whoever else that they feel they can divvy up that money and build more stronger core to make sure the supporting cast all around is solid.
Okay, we're in agreement. Let's move on. Are the 49ers right to have the mindset that only injuries derailed them last season? The Niners like to take this approach after the Super Bowl. It's like, hey, you know what? Bad luck, non-calls, this and that. We'll be back. This year, everything fell apart. You know what? We had injuries. We're still great. They like to have the mental edge still. Boxers are like that. Boxers have never been knocked out. They never lost a fight. There was always something that happened to keep that mental edge where you're still an alpha or whatever. Is that the right approach? Would anything else just be negative and self-defeating, or is this like denial?
Where we going?
Jose, why don't you start off since you've been quiet in the corner getting your hair cut?
Quiet in the corner. It wasn't in the corner. Everyone's in a row. I'll separate. We're social distance. But no. No, the 49ers not right to have that mindset. We could have that mindset, I guess, to a degree, and the fans can. The players shouldn't just be like, oh, come on, let's just scrap the season. It was injuries, we're fine, because they're gonna build themselves up into a zone of complacency. And as a player, you shouldn't feel that way. Like, should you think like, hey, injuries bothered us or derailed us? Sure. But that means pretty much, hey, we don't got to get better. All it is, we already are good, and we don't need to work on anything else. Like, no, you have to, because you realize like half the players, like half the strength that you guys were that led you to that 2019 Super Bowl, you're not going to be nowhere near that in 2021. So all you guys have to end up making up for all those players that you're going to lose, like a Sherman who was at his top, who was more at his top in 2019, or Kevin Williams who might not be back, like, and so on and so forth. Many of these players. So I don't. You can say it to a degree, like, yeah, injuries did derail us, but you can't just say, hey, that's all we need. You got to keep getting better. Don't feel like you're in the zone of complacency, especially when you haven't done anything for more than one season in recent memory. So no.
Yeah, my favorite thing of that was the fact that it was Deebo Samuel that tweeted that out, and Deebo Samuel is one of the guys that missed so much time this season. So I don't really understand it. For me, it's a bad look.
It was an interesting tweet. I think that they definitely would have been much more improved if they weren't injured. I think we're all in agreement on that. I don't think anyone's denying really that they would have been the same thing if everyone was healthy. I think everyone's in agreement that with Bosa, with Deebo Samuel, with George Kittle all year, they would have been better. But it was an interesting tweet. This is a weird year for social media. I don't know.
Yeah, it's everyone on the Niners saying we're not as bad as you think we are. Here's the problem why I don't like it. I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to maintain some type of confidence and say we're a good team. We believe in ourselves. That's great. It's just it seems like the message that they're conveying that they don't even realize they're conveying is that they have nothing left to prove. They're great. Yeah. That's what they are. They proved it in 2019, and losing the Super Bowl, having a bad 2020, that doesn't change anything. The Niners just have this quality of greatness. And what I don't know if it's the coaches don't understand it or the young players don't understand it, is it doesn't work that way. You're not something. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. You're never something. So that team is on the way down while the Rams are on the way up. And they can turn it around, but they're not the same team they were a year and a half ago. They're totally different, and they do have something to prove. You have something to prove every season. And if you had a player like Joe Staley, Frank Gore, Richard Sherman still on the team, they would be saying things like that on social media, in the press conferences, as opposed to the young ones being like, hey, nothing's changed. We're so great. I didn't play that bad. It wasn't my fault. Like, it's not the right mentality, I don't think. And I think a veteran understands that. So, come on, Kyle.
Come on, Kyle.
Shanahan is burning players into the ground like Debo and Wilson Jr. at New England. There's some guilty coaching decisions too. Yeah, he's right.
Yeah.
He's right. All the more reason to bring in Frank Gore, right? Hey, Frank, we're up 20. Go get him. Hey, Frank, we're down 20. It's your game. Okay. That's why he got so many touches in New York last year, because they were out of it since week 2 on. It was like, Frank, hey, go for it, buddy. We have nothing to play for.
Adam Gase loves Frank Gore more than anyone. Any Niner fan
Everyone
loves
Frank Gore.
No, but Adam Gase loves Frank Gore more than anyone.
Wasn't Adam Gase quality control in the Niners when Gore was here?
I don't know about that, but with
he was.
I mean,
Yes, at one point.
He was 2008 when Martz was the guy. Anyway.
Well, then,
Right.
he's the man.
The man. All right.
Yeah.
This is a Maverick question. If the 49ers lose Kyle Juszczyk and Jordan Reed, who are some replacements from outside the organization? Just a fair warning preview. This is probably going to be an article that Maverick writes for Sports Illustrated's All 49ers at some time this week. Just a little teaser preview, but Maverick, why don't you start us off?
Well, my reasoning is obviously Kyle Juszczyk is going to be better than every fullback on the market because he is the best fullback in the NFL. But there are teams like the Jets that have better cap situations than the 49ers and can attract Kyle Juszczyk if he does go for the money. And same with Jordan Reed. He's had injury problems. If they decide to go in a different direction, then they have to get another veteran tight end. If they go through the draft, I think Tommy Tremble, the Notre Dame guy, he's a versatile tight end, H-back guy. But if they choose not to go through the draft, I like Anthony Ferkser, who's a tight end fullback, and he'd be really cheap. He'd probably be under $1.5 million, and he knows the system a little, playing for Tennessee the last couple of years. And then my other guy is, if you go veteran, Anthony Sherman for a fullback and veteran tight end. How about Trey Burton, who is just as injury prone as Jordan Reed, but maybe offers a little more upside because of more recent success. So those are my guys.
Now you can. Didn't Jacob Hollister out of Seattle? Didn't he play fullback a little bit when he first was there? So that's one. Yes. That's a name that I would go with for the Juszczyk replacement. As far as tight end, Jordan Reed's not going to be back, but the guy that I would maybe take a look at would be Richard Rodgers out of Philadelphia. He had a much higher yards per reception than what we saw out of Reed this season on a lot fewer targets. And I think he'd be a nice fit there if the 49ers decide to move away from giving Dwelly those targets.
Man, you guys took all the options, man. Where am I going to go with this? Where am I going to go with this? I feel like at this point, there's really no replacements, I guess, because, Juszczyk, they love motioning him a lot because there's always a threat of him actually going out for a pass. And I would love Anthony Sherman to be that replacement, or even Hollister. It's just, I just don't think you're going to get the same. And I mean, Jordan Reed is like pretty much just throwing any tight end, I guess, because personally, I would rather see more Dwelly. I'd rather see more Dwelly, but I know that's we're looking at outside the organization. I just think these are more like luxury signings that they're gonna that they shouldn't really be looking at. They should be just looking at like, hey, how about we prop up our own players that are underneath? Because if we can't do that, what's that saying about our personnel that we're picking or our coaching that we can't develop these players into being these replacements?
Yeah, I'd like to see more Dwelly too. Charlie Warner, they drafted him to be a blocker. Can he block? I'll give you a name though. You guys haven't named him. He's an NFC West guy. I think he's a hell of an athlete who's been underused. Gerald Everett.
That's who I forgot to say.
I really like Gerald Everett. He's been with the Rams. He's a hell of an athlete. He does play a little fullback. I'm just going to say him for both spots. You weaken a rival. He's still young. And maybe Kyle Shanahan could get more out of him than Sean McVay. I haven't really seen Sean McVay use much of his creativity with Gerald Everett at all. Everett.
He does have experience too on those Kittle shovels or Kittle handoffs. I saw him do that multiple times with LA.
Gerald Everett.
You got me. I have 5 guys underlined, and I said 4, and I forgot to say.
That's what I'm here for. Everett. He was the same draft class as Kittle. I think he was picked before him. I think he was a 3rd-round pick. So, got that going for him. All right, trivia. Okay, hold on. This is a bonus topic from Delondis Green. And I like it. I've been talking about it all day, but I haven't talked about it with you guys. Get Sam, let him battle with Rosen for QB1, cut Jimmy, and sign free agents. Thoughts? Together would be an upgrade in the quarterback room. Yeah. What do you guys think about it? I'm not taking a stand. What do you guys think? Get Sam Darnold, let him battle with Rosen, cut Jimmy. Ooh, that's bold. Sign free agents. What do you think? Who wants to go first?
I like it. Why not? I think Sam Darnold's got a way better ceiling than Garoppolo. Is he better than him right now? Probably not. But you also got to throw in the factor like, how could Kyle Shanahan amplify him or hide some of his flaws until he ends up actually kicking it up a notch towards midway of the season, or maybe he finds a hot streak. Even Rosen too. That's why I thought when you wrote that piece yesterday, Grant, I was like, yeah, quarterback competition. Let him actually feel the heat, and let's see if actually Garoppolo rises up and can actually stiff arm Rosen from taking his job. Because that's something that, he needs to come to realization. Like, hey, maybe that's what he needs to know, that your job is not really safe. Your job is not safe. So why not bring Darnold? I think, I guess, would be the cost of how much you're going to get him, because they're, late first rounder, early second rounder. It depends maybe what you were willing to give for him, what the Jets are asking. But if all actually works out in terms of value and price, then I wouldn't mind this at all.
I wouldn't mind this one a whole lot. I don't think that Darnold is better than what Garoppolo is, but the thing is, even if you're getting the same production out of him, you're saving $24 million on the cap or somewhere in that neighborhood. I think, I'm not sure what Darnold's number is, but it's going to be a huge savings. Let those two battle it out. We'll take a little bit more look at, Darnold. He makes some plays, but he makes some bad ones as well. So I like this. I like the savings that it would bring. And I don't know if, as far as it being a big upgrade in the quarterback room, but it would be maybe a slight one.
I do think Darnold has room for improvement once away from Gase, and also having more weapons. All his good to average games last year were when Jamison Crowder was healthy. When Jamison Crowder was injured, that's when he struggled more, because Crowder was his security blanket. He didn't have a tight end he could throw to. His best receiver for the whole season was probably Braxton Berrios or Brashad Perriman. So that's tough to work with. But I don't see the whole reason why getting both Rosen and Darnold. I think you have one guy as a project. It's hard to have two projects in the same quarterback room, in my opinion. If Shanahan thinks he's good enough to do it with his quarterback guru mind, I think he can, but I just would rather them pair Rosen with a veteran if they do move on from Jimmy.
Yeah, I feel like with Darnold, I like the cap savings. He's a lot cheaper than Jimmy Garoppolo. And so what that means is you bring in Darnold, now you can re-sign Trent Williams and Alex Mack and Jason Verrett, theoretically. You can overspend for a left tackle because you're spending nothing on quarterbacks. Only thing with Darnold is, you really want to trade a second-round pick for that guy? You really want to trade a second-round pick for that guy when you have Josh Rosen, who might be just as good, on your team right now making $900K? I don't know. I don't think I would trade a second-round pick for Sam Darnold. I don't think I like him that much. He's cheap. He has promise. You know who else is cheap? Ryan Fitzpatrick. And he's better than Sam Darnold. So I would just go with the one project in Josh Rosen, who's $900K, give like $4 million to Ryan Fitzpatrick, and then re-sign Trent Williams and get all the players you want to make the rest of the team better. But I don't know, would George Kittle protest if the team cut Jimmy Garoppolo's best friend? I don't know. They're probably going to get rid of Trent Taylor too, so you're going to have to get some new friends, George. I'm around. We can be dogs.
This is an interesting one, though, because actually Dane Brugler came out with his most recent mock draft this morning, and he actually has the 49ers swapping picks with New York and acquiring Darnold in that direction, and then going with the defensive end with New York picking the 22nd, 22 in the first round. So, I'm not totally against that. I'm not super hot on Darnold at the same time, but I don't think that's a horrible idea, a horrible route to go if they decide to go in that direction.
That's a clever solution. So say it again, just swap firsts.
Yeah, they're swapping first.
The Jets have two.
Yeah, because what he has the Jets taking Wilson at 2 and then swapping with the Niners to get 12. So the Niners get 22 and the Jets get 12. There's some other picks that are included in there as well later on.
That's clever. I wouldn't just give the second round pick straight up for Darnold. That's clever. I have to look at what the difference is. But okay. One more question from Xavier. Says, what do you guys think about signing Alex Mack? We already talked about that. Or Patrick Peterson or AJ Boye at center. Is that possible to get someone like AJ Boye or Patrick Peterson? Would it fit in the salary cap structure? Is it someone, they're older corners. Jason Verrett's a little bit older too. Are you guys interested in any of those two, Peterson or Boye? Mav.
I have to look at the numbers to be sure, but I know that Patrick Peterson did not have a great year last year. I do know, however, that in 3 of his 4 career games against DK Metcalf, 3 of the games he did pretty well. That last time they played Arizona or played Seattle, Peterson was torched a couple times, but he had prior success against Metcalf before that. But he's aging. I do like AJ Bouye a lot, and if he was cheaper, I don't know what the salary would be. I'd be interested, but I think I'd rather go Verrett, who I think will be less expensive, and Mosley, and sign a nickel corner than give the amount of money that would add up to Bouye, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with Mav on that one. I don't, as far as Bouye, I'm not high on that. Just looking at, he had a really good season in 2017, but he's really fallen off since then. Over the last 3 years, he's given up, I think it's around a 94 QB rating when he's targeted, and around 65% pass completions. Not very good on either of those numbers. So that would be a guy that I'd stay away from. Much rather go with Verrett in that direction. As far as Peterson, I think he's a little bit too long in the tooth for somebody that you're going to want to bring in.
I wasn't here for Alex Max, but yes, I would love for him to get signed. Yes, sign him, bring him. So I'll just keep it short and sweet for that. Patrick Peterson, I haven't liked Patrick Peterson for a while, to be honest. Yeah. I think he's been teetering for longer than just last season. Mm-hmm. I think I'd rather take the shot on Bouye because I think his stock is at an all-time low, and why not just take a flyer on him? The fact that the Broncos didn't want to pay him his $13 million says a lot. So just bring him. I think you could bring him in. Nothing too serious. I think he'd be cheaper than Verrett, but then again, I feel like Verrett's market's very tricky. I feel like because these two are now on the market, it kind of makes his value not as high. But then it's also, what do teams view Verrett's 2020 season? Like, yes, he was great, but there's also he is still technically injury prone. He started the season injured. So, I mean, just because he went on that 14-game binger doesn't mean, he's all of a sudden just magically healed. So I think it'd be a tough call. I'd prefer Verrett, but I wouldn't mind Bouye. I think he'd be a solid pickup.
Okay, I'm going to say no on both of them. No on Bouye, no on who's the other guy?
Peterson.
No on Richard Sherman. The only vet that I'm into is Verrett. Bring him back, draft a corner, get younger at the position. Like, look at the Super Bowl champion Bucks, and we're going to talk about what the Niners could learn from them. There's a lot of lessons, but it's a very young defensive backfield, similar to the Niners' first Super Bowl team. Bunch of rookies in the backfield. You don't need a ton of experience in the defensive backfield. You need a ton of athleticism and speed and talent, and that's what Tampa has. They also have an excellent front seven and Tom Brady. I'm just saying, I like Verrett. He's 30 almost, and he's got a crazy injury history, and if you give him a 3-year, $30 million deal, God help you. I would offer him that, but I also would like some youth in that secondary as well.
You think Verrett or Bouye or Peterson? So the one I saw was Chris Harris last season signed a 2-year, $17 million deal. And that's what I would think Verrett and Peterson would be after. So would you hand Verrett $217 or is that too much? Yeah.
I would do it. Yes. Would you guys? All
right. I think I would. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, on the Verrett deal, I'd like to see if they could get him in some kind of a contract where it's really based off of him being available.
I like that.
Because that's his biggest issue. I mean, I'll give you a bunch of money, but you've got to be on the field in order to earn it. Maybe give him a little bit of a higher signing bonus too to kind of offset that a little bit.
Great idea. So like weekly roster bonuses.
Basically something like that. Yes.
If you're active in the active, what is it? 46, 48? I don't know.
Anyway.
Yeah. You can't just give them a bunch of guaranteed money like that. That's too risky.
Good idea. And if some team wants to do that, well, then I don't think the Niners should match. That's your risk. Go take that. Exactly. Let's draft another corner. Okay. A few more. What would the 49ers have to do to trade for Russell Wilson? It almost seems like it's more likely that the Seahawks will trade Wilson than the Texans will trade Watson. Wilson has said that he's unhappy with how much he gets hit. And when asked if he were on the trading block, he said, you got to ask Seattle. There was a report today that Seattle's very unhappy with Russell Wilson. What will the Niners have to do to actually get this dude? Or is it just impossible?
You know what they have to do? They have to file to the NFL that they have to switch with the team in the AFC West.
Yeah.
So like either say, hey, Chargers, you want to switch with us? And even then, I don't think that's going to be enough for the Seahawks to say, hey, now we'll trade you to the 49ers. There's no way in hell they're going to trade them. It's just like the same thing with Rodgers. There's no way at the end of those two teams, I'm pretty sure those two teams have the 49ers atop their list of we're never going to trade them to this team, especially to Kyle Shanahan. There's just absolutely no way. All right. It's better for Grant Cohn to stop trolling on Twitter than for that to happen. You know, that's how much of an off spin it is. That's
never going to happen.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So you know, you compete. You know, so no.
Right,
come on, man.
All right.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Jose. I mean, right now, I think Vegas has the Niners as the fifth highest option for where landing spots. I think it was in the.
It's better than I thought.
A little bit, but I find it really hard to believe that Seattle would be willing to trade a quarterback of his stature to a team within their own division. But you know, if the Flyers are willing to give up the farm, who knows?
Can you tell us who the top 4 teams are in the Vegas betting?
Let me look it up. I can.
All right, we'll come back to you.
I think the Raiders
Matt.
are on there.
I think so.
I just think he has the no trade clause, and if he's willing to, or if he doesn't want to play for Seattle because of the offensive line, what makes the 49ers offensive line more desirable at this point? If they
That's
don't,
the best answer of the afternoon so far. Ding, ding, ding. Nice. Good call.
What makes it desirable? I think he would. One, I think Seattle would only trade him to an AFC team. They wouldn't even consider an NFC team, especially a division team. And that leaves Indianapolis, the Raiders, those teams. I think that's the only way Russell Wilson's traded. I'd say it, like Jose said, it's very, very unlikely.
It's possible.
Jack, you got that number? You got those teams?
Go ahead. Let me see.
I'll keep going. I think Russell Wilson would love to play for the 49ers for the same reason that Richard Sherman did, to be able to stick it to your former team twice a year. I don't think the Seahawks would like to trade him within the division. Sure, you'd probably rather trade him at least outside the division, maybe outside the conference. But the Niners have interesting things they can offer. The Niners have Nick Bosa. That trade chip is so interesting to me because it's worth more than most players in the league. He's on a rookie deal. People love him. So maybe the Niners wouldn't be willing to trade him, but it always feels like no player is off limits if you have a first-round pick in Nick Bosa. You can almost get anyone to listen. But I'm not saying that's what they should do. And ultimately, I think he'll probably, go to some team because the Niners don't trade the farm. They trade a second-round pick for some guy with a bad back or who's been a backup for a long time, or a third for a guy who's missed a season, something like that. It's just not really in their DNA.
If Russell Wilson gets traded to the 49ers, you better start betting on Kershaw getting traded to the Giants because I
was about to say.
Yeah.
There's no
Ryan says, what would the trade even cost? More or less than Watson? That's a good question.
I'd say more because in the division, it would cost more.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be in that same range.
Same range.
The odds they have here are Vegas 1, followed by Dallas, Jacksonville, Washington, and then the 49ers.
Jacksonville because they might offer the first pick in the draft.
Correct.
Wow. So even if the Jets wanted them, offering pick number 2 might not be enough. No, it wouldn't. You have to offer number 2 and next year's one as well, or 2 and 20 something.
But you know what? It's like the Seahawks would have to demand the farm too because they gave up those picks for Jamal Adams, so they're pretty much just restocking their own arsenal. So it's like, hey, give us 5 first-round draft picks just so we can get over that, and then I guess you got to think about maybe even retrading Jamal Adams just so you can get more. Because at that point, aren't you kind of hitting the reset if you're letting go Wilson?
Quick one, hold on, real quick. If you guys are the GM of the Seahawks and Trent Baalke hits you up, and in that voice, he's like, "Oh, I'd like to offer you the second pick,
John,
and so we give you 2 first-round picks and win the number 1 this year." Would you say yes? Would you take Trevor Lawrence in another?
I couldn't understand what you were saying, but
I would give you the number 1 pick. No, that was Bernie Sanders. The number 1 pick and two firsts, including the number 1 pick in this draft, which means Trevor Lawrence. And another number 1 for Russell Wilson. Would you do that if you were the Seahawks?
No, because I would just actually do what he's asking for and solidify the offensive line that you haven't been doing. No one cares what you're doing, Grant. This isn't about you.
It's not. No, you're right. I would do it, though.
Of course you do it.
I would do it. Of course I would.
I've seen you at the roulette table.
Yeah. I always lose. All right. Let's get back to the topics. All right. Let's talk about the Super Bowl because it's only a few days ago. And I haven't talked to you guys since the last time we did predictions, and I think Jack and I said that the Bucks were gonna win. I don't remember though. Did we say the Bucks were gonna? Jack, was that us? Me and you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And you guys,
I think so.
you guys picked the Chiefs. Oh, that's hey.
Hey, but
man,
who did I put my money on? Who did I put my money on, Grant? When I texted you?
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Who did I put my money on?
That's what's up.
Hey, once I saw that Mahomes late report, I was like, oh hell no! I hammered it away. I was like, let's go. So,
Well, I'm not going to toot my horn too much because that's just not in my personality. It's bigger than that. So what I want to say is let's move on. It's not about me. What did the 49ers take away from the Super Bowl? It's probably a lot of things, but what pops into your head first? Maverick, you want to go?
Oh, I guess since I'm the only one that full on only picked the Chiefs. I mean, I tweeted afterwards, this is why I don't bet on sports because I'm never right. But I think that this proved that you can win a championship with defense. And although having a franchise MVP quarterback like Patrick Mahomes makes it much easier to get to the Super Bowl, you still need that Shaq Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul, Vita Vea. And I think that was the problem. I underrated how much Vita Vea could impact the game. I loved him in the draft, but I thought his injury would hold him back and didn't think that, one, the Chiefs don't shift around your offensive line and have four guys playing new positions. That's weird. But anyways, I think the Niners learned that they can win with their defense, having Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, like how Tampa had Levante David and Devin White being able to take away guys in both the pass game and the rushing game. And then the Niners also saw, don't abandon your run game. They learned that the year before when they were in the Super Bowl, and they
Maverick, stop stealing my points.
Well, I have to. You guys all got it right, so I have to explain why I'm wrong. And so, don't abandon your run game. They should have kept going with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Tampa didn't abandon their run game when they were up and went with playoff Lenny to the Super Bowl, and that's how they won. And I think they should take a lot from that game.
Yeah. Are we going to also be talking about some other general takeaways as well? Or
of course. Go ahead. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, as far as the 49ers takeaway, it's the fact that really what it shows is they've been building it in the right way as far as some of their focus on the pass rush and the way that they've built their defense. The 49ers are built very similar to what how Tampa Bay was built. Their biggest problem is the quarterback position. If the Tom Brady was the difference between Kansas City being up, Tampa Bay, I think it was 21-6 at halftime, and where the 49ers or 28, whatever it was. I mean, the 49ers could have been scored 28 points in the first half or 21 points in the first half if they had a quarterback that was making plays. So that's part one. Overall, the biggest thing my biggest takeaways from the game is just that the talk about afterwards about this whole offensive line thing. Are people all of a sudden stunned that backup offensive linemen aren't going to be as good as your starters? I mean, who was watching Kansas City through the playoffs and really thought that they were dominant? I mean, they almost lost to Cleveland. So, there's a lot of things about this game that people are really overreacting to this whole the need to solidify your offensive line. That's my first one. Second one, Reed was terrible with the way that Reed and Bieniemy, with the way they called this game was awful. They completely went away from the run. Every time they ran the ball, they were successful, and they were looking to make the big shots, and that's what they're used to. And Tampa Bay basically said to them, "Hey, we'll let you run the ball on us. Show us that you can run the ball down our throats and do 10, 12 play drives." And they just never did it, and that was bad. And the other part, the last thing is, people are talking about how it wasn't Mahomes' fault. Mahomes wasn't very good in this game. If you watch him play, how many times did he hit his back foot? He just didn't look like he knew what he was seeing in front of him and was moving around so much. I understand that he made some spectacular plays where he's running around and throwing the ball, off platform and falling down and all these kind of things. But I don't think that he really played a very good game as well. I just think the Chiefs went into this game and were just completely overwhelmed for whatever reason by the moment and by what Tampa Bay was presenting them. I don't think they were ready to go at all.
I think the 49ers should take away from that is to not abandon the run game when it's working well. That fourth quarter is it's like, hey, most got that 4-6 yard run, and it's like, all right, pass. Like, I understand at some point, the box is going to get loaded. It's like, hey, sometimes quarterbacks has to make the play, and Garoppolo didn't, and the offensive line didn't hold up either. But I mean, if it was working, we got that nice chunk, at least one more run just to make it just to make it a lighter. I mean, just to keep the clock running. That's what I took away. Was like, it wasn't Brady was great. Brady was pretty solid in that first half. And aside from the defense, it was run gash to weaken them. And then it was like, all right, I'm just picking them apart like it's easy. Like some of his throws were layups, but not once again, not to diminish anything Brady did because he was pretty solid. But it's just, to me, like that run game just diminished them, just bullied them, and it worked out well. And that's kind of what the 49ers were doing for a good majority of the game. If maybe they had kept that up, it would have worked more. I mean, who's hindsight, but to me, it's just, if you just committed, just through a couple more runs, it would have worked fine. It would have worked fine. All you guys made great points, but that's the one I was sticking with. That, hey, if you were just run the ball, maybe become more effective, committed to it, it would have worked out fine in your favor.
Yeah, I mean, there was the sequence at the end of the first half where the Chiefs are down 14-3 with the ball in the red zone. And they pass. They 3 times. They stop the clock on themselves twice. They give the ball back to the Bucs with a minute left, and they score a touchdown. That touchdown never should have happened. It wouldn't have happened if the Chiefs had just run the ball and made sure that they used up the clock. So, yeah. But my biggest takeaway, and I think the 49ers' biggest takeaway, Jed York's biggest takeaway, is that just watching both teams, it's clear that Kyle Shanahan is elite, the best at building other teams. I mean, both the Chiefs and the Bucs are Kyle Shanahan's creation. They are a creation of his bad decisions. The Bucs have Tom Brady because of Kyle. Kyle didn't want him. Kyle could have had him. The Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes because of Kyle and about 9 other coaches that didn't want him. So Kyle, still learning how to build his own team. It takes time, but in terms of building other teams, he's done it twice. He is directly responsible for the past 2 Super Bowl champions. It's remarkable. He needs to get some credit for that. I'm just saying.
Well,
Jose doesn't like that at all.
You want to go that route, you could even say he's responsible for the Patriots winning the Super Bowl in 2017. But
3. That is 3 teams. That's unreal. He should be in the Hall of Fame right now. 3 rings.
I really like Jose's point, with the running and whatnot, because he really saw that in the second quarter, I think it was, where they just started running the ball, and it really looked like the Tampa Bay looked like they were running a Kyle Shanahan offense for a while, where they were running the ball, pounding it, and then they were throwing little screens. They weren't really doing anything, asking Brady to do a whole lot, and they got into the red zone, and they threw a touchdown pass. One of the things the Niners couldn't do in their Super Bowl. And then to your other point, Grant, real quick, is you mentioned the end of the first half and the way that played out. The other mistake that Kansas City made there was calling timeouts on defense and giving Brady more time to go down the field. Steve Young hit on that yesterday on KBR, and he was saying as he's watching the game, he's like, "What are you doing? This makes no sense. You're giving, because really what that did, in his words, was it gave Brady. Once he saw that first timeout come, he knows that what's going to be that Kansas City is going to be doing that, and that allows him to know that he can work the middle of the field and not have to worry about be pressing as much with the time."
Also, in retrospect, Kyle Shanahan handled the end of the first half of the Super Bowl correctly. His goal was to not give the ball back to Mahomes. He did that. So, sorry, Kyle. You were right.
Yeah, I said that at the time. You didn't.
Yeah.
We argued about that back and
You were
forth.
right, Jack. You end up usually being right. So I just wanted to say that I was wrong. I
thought it was correct too. What are you talking about?
Hey, I was wrong. I didn't get it. Now I get it. No, you're right, Kyle. You did that right. We have a few questions. We got to.
I was as wrong as could be on Tom Brady. So,
I think a lot of us
not
were.
to beat a dead horse, but an athletic center would be the most important upgrade for this team in the run and the pass game.
Absolutely.
As my dad might say, couldn't hurt. Tampa used the same game plan the Niners used, just stuck with the run and executed in the passing game better and did not lose Tyreek in coverage. Well, playing 2 deep all day and saying no deep passes, run the ball was the right call. It's what everyone's going to do against the Chiefs from now on. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Maybe if they still had Kareem Hunt, they would have felt more, I don't know. Edwards-Hilaire's pretty good too. They spent a first-round pick on him, so I don't see.
He was also injured, though. I think that game still, wasn't he still kind of hobbled? I don't know.
49ers should take Osemele and Breeland from Kansas City and Shaq Barrett from the Bucs. Yeah, I mean, if you get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo, these are the kind of moves you can sort of entertain. But as long as Garoppolo's on the team, forget about it. Shaq Barrett, forget about it. Forget about it. All right, hold on. That was terrible. More people talking. Kyle's system is great, but when the rubber meets the road in the playoffs, you need that quarterback who can make plays in the drop back game. Yeah, that's 100% correct. Because what Kyle gives you is run game, play action. It takes you far. But to win the Super Bowl, you need the quarterback who can make those, 8 to 10 plays in the drop back game, some of them in the red zone, some of them on third down, some of them down in the fourth quarter, especially if you're losing in the fourth quarter. Then there's like the 2-minute drill drives, all that stuff. Yeah, absolutely. You can't just – they tried in 2019 to just have a lead and steamroll teams the entire way, but eventually you got to come from behind. And when they were behind with 5 minutes left in the Super Bowl, they fell apart. The main threat, they don't call him the main threat for nothing. He's not like the number 2 threat, the number 3. No. 49ers first takes, with the cap being about $5 million more than first thought, is Hyder a re-sign option? Yeah, if they get rid of Jimmy. Okay. Final topic. Should the 49ers have gone with Tom Brady this year?
Now that we know this, yes. Yeah. I mean, once again, I'm not going to try to sound like a hypocrite because I did say the 49ers shouldn't go after Brady. Thought it was, especially the way he went out in that playoff game. Just figured like, all right, maybe Garoppolo would take that leap, and Brady's ascending. You got to think long term. But man, if you had signed Brady, a lot of butterfly effects, everything would have been changed. I know a lot of people I see, like I'm reading some articles saying like Brady probably gets hurt behind this offensive line. And I do not think that's the case. I don't think it's absolute. I wouldn't rule it out, but I don't think it's absolute because what's the game he got injured on? The MetLife game? He's played at MetLife for 100 years now. He knows something how to tell his team about little tips and tricks. Just look at the way how he talks to his team about how he's sending texts, how he has his hands all over every player, not just the offense, the defense, that's how much he wants to win. Garoppolo's not like that. I mean, and I know Kyle Shanahan might not have liked a player of his caliber, like maybe overstepping his authority, but if it's the GOAT, of course you're going to listen to him, let him have some say, like the way Bruce Arians said that, hey, Brady in New England wasn't able to unleash like his full ability potential to be himself. He was capped to a degree, and that makes sense because it's Belichick. So personally to me, I think he just would have had so much more say. Maybe you draft Tristan Wirfs instead of making that trade for Trent Williams and instead of drafting Javon Kinlaw. So now you really solidify what he can do. So you're not as shaky. And then you bring in Gronk. I mean, I just feel like everything would have made so much more easier for this team. Not as many injuries. Of course, a lot of it's variable, but I just think it would have been a drastic change. And I do think they probably could have even been to the Super Bowl and heck, even won it.
Yeah, I was so wrong on Brady. And one of the reasons why I wasn't really hot on him was because of the way that he looked in New England and what we saw, since really last, with this year and we should have looked at closer last year was the weapons that he didn't have while he was there and now he was carrying that team. If the 49ers had Tom Brady this year, I think they probably go 10-6, definitely 10-6. I think 11-5 might even have put themselves in that same position where Tampa Bay ended up playing Washington in the first round, and who knows what could have happened after that. But they definitely would have been a lot further and would have had a lot better year. And to Jose's point, as far as people saying that Brady would have got hurt behind this line, no, he wouldn't. He gets the ball out a lot faster than any of these other quarterbacks on the 49ers. So he would have protected himself with the way that he gets the ball out.
I think it's hard to deny that he would have improved this team. He definitely would have. He was $2 million more on the cap this year and would be another $2 million on the cap next year than Garoppolo. But let's just say you didn't know this Super Bowl happened. What was Brady before this season is he would be an elite game manager, as we thought from what he was with that last season in New England, where he struggled in New England. As Jack said, he didn't have any receivers to throw to. He would have much better options this year, so he would be an improvement. Plus, as people have reported, there was a possible first-round pick on the table for Garoppolo, possible second-round pick for Garoppolo. So not only do they have that first-round pick they got for Buckner if they do that trade, but they have another first-round pick they could have used on Austin Jackson, or they could have used on another offensive lineman or wide receiver, defensive back, whatever. And I think that would have improved the team just because you weren't sacrificing any assets to get Brady, and you would be getting assets for Garoppolo if there was a first or second round pick on the table. So it would make the team better. And also, how many times did the 49ers lose by a couple points because Nick Mullins couldn't hold on to the football, or the defense just couldn't hold on in the last second because the offense couldn't score enough points to help out the defense when they were doing well early on? They probably win that Philly game. They probably win that Dallas game. They probably win that Washington game. And then right there, that's a playoff team.
Yeah, I mean, the Niners were 13-3 without they were 6-10 this year without Tom Brady. The Bucks were 7-9 the year before without Tom Brady. I think he could have taken him to the Super Bowl and won it with this team. He is a physical upgrade over Jimmy Garoppolo. But the thing about Brady that I keep coming back to that makes him the greatest of all time, it's not really his physical skill set, although he's a great thrower and he has great pocket presence and all experience and all this stuff, but it's the leadership. He is the head coach. Mm-hmm. I mean, look at Antonio Brown in particular. There is no head coach in the NFL that could keep him in line at any point. I mean, Tomlin gave up. Belichick gave up. Gruden gave up. Brady brings him on the team, and you don't hear anything. He's just the good soldier he was back in the day. And that's the Brady effect. If Brady's talking football in front of a team, he commands more respect than any coach in the world. He's Tom freaking Brady. So that makes him the head coach. And as you said, he has the impact on the defense. He has his hands all over the team. That is the kind of the Peyton Manning effect. Like Peyton Manning took over a team, as Domain Thread is saying, it's the same reason the Niners didn't bring Manning in 2012. Harbaugh didn't want to give up. He wanted to be the head coach. If you bring in Brady, he's the head coach. You bring in Manning, he's the head coach. And you just have to be wise enough, like Arians, to be like, hey, thank you. I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn from you. And in the meantime, we're going to win championships, and I'll go to the Hall of Fame. So, that's why he's the coach. You could have had Antonio Brown. Like, I was always against the Niners going after Antonio Brown because Garoppolo can't keep in check. Nope. Derek Carr couldn't keep. Ben Roethlisberger couldn't keep. Brady can. So you bring in Brady, all kind of different. I mean, Leonard Fournette, same type of thing on a different scale. The league gave up on Fournette. He cleared waivers. Former number 4 pick goes to the Bucks, helps him win a Super Bowl. Brady keeps him in line, has him playing like he played at LSU. Man, yeah, they really blew it. That would have been the combination of Brady and Kyle Shanahan could have been so good. So
it's like with Brady, you get like this filter where it's like, hey, forget all the baggage he comes. When you have Brady, the only filter you get to see is just face value talent. And you also got to think about maybe Mike McGlinchey doesn't start crying about Twitter, about he's still here and stuff like that, because maybe Brady gets in his face like, what the hell was that? He starts checking him. That's that leadership you would have gotten, and then that solidification that they needed this year.
We're going to finish with this one here. David Velez, extremely generous. Thank you. You guys are all very generous. Thank you. David says 26 quarterbacks have started the Super Bowl in the last 20 years. Only 3 of them couldn't throw the ball deep outside the numbers. 2 of them won. Trent Dilfer and Brad Johnson both had all-time great defenses. Would you guys agree with David Velez's statement?
I think I would have to actually look at back of all those ones, but I don't think it sounds wrong now.
Rex Grossman, I don't know if
he didn't win.
Oh, winning. Oh, okay.
Drew Brees doesn't really throw the ball down the field that much.
I think at that time he actually had some arms, maybe.
Yeah, he might be right. He might be right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think he might be right now.
Peyton in that last Super Bowl, I don't know if he could throw outside the numbers necessarily.
True.
But my whole thing is just
had an all-time great defense, as David points out.
Yeah. Well, but with Brady, I think what you were saying about the sacrificing with Shanahan and what Harbaugh did with Peyton is, think of what the Bucs did. Now Bruce Arians, like you said, Hall of Fame coach. He's a Super Bowl winner. Like anything can go with him now. And then Byron Leftwich is going to be a head coach probably in the next 2 years. And Todd Bowles is probably going to be a head coach in the next 2 years. All because of signing one guy who kind of took the team from 7-9 to Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Final thing, Domain just slid this one in before we leave, and he's absolutely right. Brady also would have had the cojones to stand up to Kyle, which is what a quarterback needs in this system. Even Brad Johnson stood up to Gruden. I believe Matt Ryan stood up to Kyle Shanahan and pushed back. I totally agree. Kyle Shanahan is very, very abrasive, and I think he needs someone to stand. I don't think he even resents it. I think he expects it, and if you can't stand up to him, maybe you're not professional quality. So, yeah, great with the Domain Threat. You are the Domain MVP today. So thank you.
That's always good, though. You get that pushback. That way, you mix opinions. You can't just have one thing because then something grows stale. Then
everyone needs that. This show needs that. Good stuff, Domain. I agree. Kyle, if you're watching, and I know you are, think about it. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. I will be back in an hour with Big Face Kev, not Little Face Kev. So I'll check you then. See ya.